The sun shone brightly over the capital city of Elysia, its golden light reflecting off the grand palace where thousands of people had gathered. It was the day of choosing, a sacred ceremony where the magical crown would select the next ruler of the kingdom. The entire kingdom held its breath in anticipation, for this crown was no ordinary relic. It was a living artifact, forged centuries ago by the first king, imbued with powerful enchantments that could sense the heart and soul of its wearer. 3 heirs stood before the crowd, each hoping to be chosen. First was Prince Aldrich, the eldest, known for his sharp mind and strategic prowess. He stood tall, his gaze unwavering, dressed in the finest royal attire. Next to him was Princess Heir, a fierce warrior with a heart as fiery as her hair. She was beloved by the soldiers for her bravery on the battlefield. The last was their youngest cousin, Lord Cedric, a charming and cunning diplomat who had spent years building alliances across the realm. The high priest stepped forward, holding the crown reverently. It glowed with a soft, otherworldly light, as if sensing the moment of decision. He raised it above his head, and the crowd fell silent. By the weight of the crown, the true heir shall be chosen, the high priest declared. He lowered the crown toward Prince Aldrich, but before it could touch his brow, a crackling sound filled the air. The light from the crown flared, blinding everyone, and a loud, shattering noise echoed through the courtyard. When the light faded, the crowd gasped in shock. The crown lay in pieces, 3 jagged shards, each glowing with a different color. One shard pulsed with a golden light, another with a deep red, and a last with a shimmering blue. "What happened?" Princess Heir asked, her voice laced with disbelief. The high priest looked as stunned as the rest of them. "The crown, it has split," he whispered. He picked up the 3 pieces, each one floating out of his hands and into the air. The golden shard flew to Aldrich, the red to Heir, and the blue to Cedric. They each grasped their respective shard, feeling the surge of power coursing through them. "This is impossible," Lord Cedric muttered. "The crown is meant to choose one ruler. Why would it split?" The crowd erupted into murmurs, and the unity of the kingdom began to fray before their eyes. Aldrich, Heir, and Cedric each held a part of the power, but none held the whole. Leo, the captain of the royal guard, watched from the sidelines, his eyes narrowed in suspicion. He had served the previous king loyally and knew the history of the crown better than most. This was no accident. The crown had never faltered before, and he felt a cold shiver run down his spine as he realized that something far deeper was at play. The crown sensed something, he muttered to himself. "This is a warning." But no one was listening. The kingdom was already splitting apart, just like the shattered crown. Within weeks, the kingdom was plunged into chaos. The 3 heirs, each wielding a shard of the crown's power, had retreated to their strongholds, rallying their supporters and claiming the right to the throne. The once united kingdom was now split into 3 rival factions. In the north, Prince Aldrich ruled from the Iron Keep, using his golden shard to strengthen his strategic defenses. He was backed by nobility, who believed his wisdom made him the rightful heir. He sat at a large wooden table, a map of the kingdom spread before him, as his advisors argued over their next move. "We need to strike first," said Sir Garrick, his most trusted knight. "Show the people that you are the true king." Aldrich frowned. "If we attack, we'll be no better than usurpers," he said. "We need to prove our legitimacy, not start a war." Meanwhile, in the eastern hills, Princess Heir gathered her army. The red shard glowed fiercely in her hand, giving her an aura of strength and determination. She stood before her soldiers, her voice carrying over the charging of swords. "The crown chose me because I had the heart of a warrior," she declared. "I will not let my claim be denied by scheming nobles or false heirs." Her soldiers cheered, but Heir's closest ally, Captain Mira, looked troubled. "Something about this doesn't feel right," she said quietly. "The crown's never broke before. What if there's more to this than we know?" In the west, Lord Cedric held court in the opulent Rose Hall. The blue shard rested in his hand, its light cold and sharp. He smirked as he addressed his allies, a group of merchants and diplomats who had prospered under his influence. "We have the advantage," Cedric said smoothly. "Let Aldrich and Heir fight it out, and we'll outmaneuver them both. And when the dust settles, the crown will be ours." But as Cedric spoke, Leo, the captain of the royal guard, watched from the shadows. He had followed a hunch and infiltrated Cedric's camp. He knew the previous king had a secret, one that he had taken to the grave, and if the crown had truly shattered, it was because it sensed the corruption within the royal bloodline. Leo made his way out of the camp, his mind racing. He needed to find the one person who might have the answers, the old hermit who had once been the king's closest advisor. If anyone knew why the crown had split, it would be him. The kingdom teetered on the edge of war, but Leo had a feeling the true heir was not among the 3 heirs vying for power. The answer lay elsewhere, hidden like a buried secret, and if he didn't find it soon, the kingdom would tear itself apart. Leo traveled quickly, leaving the chaos of the capital behind. He rode through forests and across rivers, following the faint memory of a path he had taken years ago with the late king. The old king had spoken cryptically about a hidden legacy, but Leo had never questioned it until now. He arrived at a secluded hut nestled deep in the forest, hidden from prying eyes. Smoke rose gently from the chimney, and the scent of herbs filled the air. An old man, hunched and gray-bearded, stepped out. It was the hermit, Eamon, once the king's closest confidant. "You've come because of the crown," Eamon said before Leo could speak. His eyes were sharp, seeing beyond the present moment, as if he held secrets of both past and future. "The crown has shattered," Leo said, "and now 3 heirs claim the throne, each holding a shard. But this was no accident, was it?" Eamon shook his head, sighing deeply. "The crown's power is ancient, born from the essence of the first rulers. It was never meant to split unless it sensed something deeply wrong. Corruption," Leo whispered, remembering the late king's unease in his final days. "He knew, didn't he?" "Yes," Eamon said. "The royal bloodline has been tainted with greed and deceit. The crown sensed this and fractured itself, refusing to grant its full power to any of the 3 heirs." "Then who is the true heir?" Leo demanded. "Is there another? Someone we've overlooked?" The hermit nodded slowly. "There is one more. A child born outside the palace walls, hidden away to protect them from the scheming nobles. The last king knew this child would be the kingdom's only hope. The true heir is a commoner, raised far from the corruption of the court." Leo's heart raced. A commoner? It was unthinkable, but it also made the perfect sense. "Where can I find them?" he said urgently. Eamon gestured toward the distant mountains. "Seek the village of Keith. There, you will find a young woman named Celine. She is the rightful heir, the one who carries the untainted blood of the first king." Leo's mind spun with the implications. The kingdom was on the brink of civil war, and the 3 heirs would never accept a commoner as their ruler. But if they didn't, the kingdom would collapse into ruin. "Thank you, Eamon," Leo said, gripping the old man's hand. "I must bring her back before it's too late." "Be careful," Eamon warned. "The truth you carry is a dangerous weapon. The false heirs will not give up their claims easily." Leo mounted his horse and rode off, the weight of his mission heavy on his shoulders. He had only one chance to save the kingdom, and it lay in the hands of a forgotten girl who had no idea of her true destiny. The village of Keith was small and unassuming, nestled in the shadow of the mountains. Children played in the streets and farmers tended to their fields. It was a peaceful place, untouched by the political turmoil of the capital. Leo dismounted his horse, scanning the faces of the villagers. He spotted a young woman, her dark hair tied back, carrying a basket of flowers. She moved with a grace that reminded him of the old king, a quiet dignity that seemed out of place here. "Celine," he called out, stepping forward. The young woman turned, her eyes wide with surprise. "Yes? Do I know you?" Leo hesitated, taking in her unassuming appearance. Could this simple village girl truly be the heir to the throne? He took a deep breath. "My name is Leo. I serve the late king. I'm here because you are needed, Celine." She frowned, clearly puzzled. "What are you talking about?" "The crown has shattered," he explained. "The kingdom is in chaos, divided by 3 factions. You are the true heir, hidden away by the king to protect you from the court's corruption." Celine laughed, though there was no humor in it. "You must be mistaken. I'm no heir. I've lived here my whole life." The king knew what he was doing, Leo insisted. He reached into his bag and pulled out a small pendant, a simple silver charm. "This belonged to your mother. She was the queen, hidden away when the king feared for her safety. You were born in secret." Celine's hand flew to her mouth, her eyes filling with tears. She took the pendant, clutching it tightly. "My mother told me stories," she whispered, "but I thought they were just fairy tales." "They were stories to protect you," Leo said gently. "But now the kingdom needs you. The crown chose no heir because it was waiting for you." Celine looked up, her face a mix of fear and resolve. "I don't know if I can do this. I'm just a villager." "No," Leo said firmly. "You are the true heir, and you carry the hope of the kingdom. Without you, the realm will fall into ruin." She took a deep breath, standing taller. "And I'll go with you," she said. "If this is my destiny, I won't run from it." Leo felt a surge of relief. He had found the missing piece. Now all that remained was convincing the 3 heirs to set aside their greed and accept the truth. The hardest part of the journey was yet to come. The Grand Palace, once a symbol of unity and strength, now stood as a fractured monument to a kingdom on the brink of collapse. The 3 heirs, Aldrich, Heir, and Cedric, had gathered in the throne room, summoned by an urgent message from Leo. The air was tense, filled with the weight of the unspoken accusations and barely restrained hostility. Each of them clutched a shard of the shattered crown, the fragments glowing with a dim, uncertain light. "What is the meaning of this?" Aldrich demanded, his voice echoing through the marble hall. "You brought us here to resolve this conflict, and yet you bring us nothing but more chaos. Heir's eyes blazed with anger. I agreed to this meeting for the sake of the kingdom, she said, but I will not yield to either of you. The shard chose me, and I will not give it up. Cedric, ever the politician, smirked. Perhaps we should let the shard decide. Whoever commands the greatest power should rule. Leo stepped forward, cutting through the bickering. None of you were meant to rule, he said, his voice strong and steady. The crown did not shatter because it could not choose. It shattered because it refused all three of you. A stunned silence followed his words. Aldrich looked at him with disbelief. You're lying, he said. We are the blood of the royal line. One of us must be the rightful heir. No, Leo said, shaking his head. The royal bloodline has been corrupted by greed and deceit. The crown senses and split itself to prevent any of you from taking the throne. The true heir was hidden away, far from the palace, to protect her from the corruption that destroyed our family. Blair frowned. What are you saying, Leo? I'm saying, he replied, turning to the doorway, that the true heir is here. Celine stepped into the throne room, her simple dress stark against the opulent surroundings. She looked small, almost fragile, but there is a quiet strength in her eyes that made even the most hardened warriors pause. In her hand, she held a silver pendant, the final proof of her lineage. This is madness, Cedric spat. A commoner cannot be the heir. This is a trick. No, Celine said, her voice soft but firm. I am Celine, daughter of the last queen. I was hidden away to protect me from the corruption that has poisoned this palace. I did not ask for this, but I will not let the kingdom fall apart because of your pride. Aldrich and Heir exchanged a look, the realization dawning on their faces. They had fought so hard for power, but now, standing before the true heir, they felt the weight of their own ambition. The shards of the crown in their hands dimmed, as if acknowledging the truth. Leo stepped forward, taking the shards from the heirs, and kneeling before Celine. The kingdom needs a ruler who can heal the divisions we created, he said. A ruler who is not tainted by the corruption of the court. You are that ruler, Celine. One by one, the three heirs knelt, their heads bowed in submission. The power they had fought for no longer mattered. They had seen the truth, and it was undeniable. Celine took the shards and with a deep breath, placed them together. The pieces glowed brightly, merging into a single, whole crown once more. She lifted it, feeling the weight of history and responsibility settle on her shoulders. I accept the burden, she said, her voice clear and strong. Not as queen, who rules by blood, but as a leader who serves her people. The room filled with a soft, golden light as the crown's magic surged. The kingdom had found its true heir, and for the first time in years, there was hope. Celine placed the crown on her head, and the light filled every corner of the palace, washing away the shadows of greed and deceit. The three heirs rose, no longer rivals, but loyal subjects, ready to rebuild what they had nearly destroyed. Leo watched from the side, his heart filled with a strange mix of sadness and pride. He had found the heir, but he knew that his time here was over. He slipped out of the room unnoticed as the people began to cheer for their new queen. Outside, the sun broke through the clouds, casting a warm glow over the city. It was a new dawn for the kingdom, a chance to start fresh, free from the sins of the past. Celine stood before her people, the crown gleaming on her brow. She raised her hand, and the crowd fell silent. We had been divided for too long, she said, but today we begin a new chapter, one of unity, of justice, and of hope. Together we will build a kingdom worthy of its crown. The cheers rose like a wave, filling the air with the sound of a kingdom reborn.